Integral to the development of the work of the Science Commission is a process of learning together, so that the whole project is co-designed by the participants. And that's really essential, and it's hugely enriching, because it means we benefit from the collective wisdom, and it also means that we engage with people where they are in their different contexts. And because it's a global activity, the individual pieces are both regionally specific, but also globally enriched, so people learn from each other and learn from practices around the world.
The project is about promoting interactions between faith and science. It's about exploring what is happening now, and there's a lot happening now that is really good in terms of the way that our church communities across the communion are actually doing some amazing engagement with using science as one of the knowledge systems that they're working with when they're looking at their outward-facing ministries within their communities. Things associated with climate change or mental health or poverty, food sustainability, all sorts of ways in which churches are using science in their engagement in community actions.
Science is a wonderful God-given resource for the life of faith and the work of the church. Like all resources, it can be misused, but at its best, it's a wonderful gift. And the vision for the Science Commission is one of confident and courageous engagement with issues involving science for the whole Anglican Communion. And you can think of that as a sort of two-way process. On the one hand, it's drawing on science as a resource for the life of faith and the work of the church. And then in the other direction, it's offering the wisdom of faith and the voice of the church to issues involving science, the deployment of science, and the technologies that arise from science.
Science, whether we acknowledge or not, it's something that we live out in life on daily basis. Lots of things that actually order our lives is scientific, either through technology or even how our bodies, God made them and how they work, or the food we produce, and even the social interactions that we have. There is a lot of science that actually is part and parcel of who we are, and we hardly actually acknowledge that. When we keenly look at that, you will realize that science is a great gift from God, not only in the most practical things that actually help us for living, like medicine and discoveries, or the technologies that order our lives on a daily basis, but also much more so in the way God has created nature and made it a place for us as conducive to live in and work in and flourish as human beings. What I see as a great outcome, hopefully, is that there would be better understanding of what science is among communities of faith. There would be better and more deliberate kind of appropriation of scientific knowledge for greater good of humanity and using it. There would be also multiple voices that awareness being created will come on board to actually give an ethical and moral direction to what happens in science, because often sometimes good things, particularly when attitudes towards commercializing things come in, ethics get thrown out of the window. And if these voices can come on board from faith point of view and lend their voices to what ought to be applied in the right way possible within communities, to be able to enhance the good that is in there, but also be on guard against that which is not so good, would be the great outcome. Unless we create that awareness, that may not happen.
The project has come about from a call at the Lambeth Conference in August 2022, and it has called on bishops all around the Anglican Communion, all around the world, to try and harness knowledge of science in the service of the Lord Jesus and the Church, because we have such knowledge, talent and expertise in some parts of the world, but we also have a certain feeling that there is some conflict between a real Christian faith and the use of science.
I think there's need for interaction between scientists and church leaders, especially the scientists really empowering the church leaders to respond to issues of mission, and also the church leaders recognizing and mentoring, because I think the scientists also need to feel that they are part of the church and part of the mission, and therefore if the Science Commission can bring the two together for dialogue and for mission work, it would be very important.
One of the things that faith communities have really been struggling with is to trust science, because for many years and many times faith communities would see scientists as people who are anti what they believe in. And that's why even in our country, Kenya, sometimes we have religious communities who would discourage their congregants from going for vaccination or even going for treatment when they are sick, because they tend not to believe that science is also a gift from God, which is coming to address the same issues that they are also seeking to do.
We are able to see that science is leading us to Jesus Christ, leading us to God. So we should not demonize science, but instead be able to find a way of integrating it along with our faith to strengthen our belief in the God that we worship.
Science, it's a great opportunity that we are getting by now, and is a gift from God that is coming to help the church moving on. You know, in Africa, you will see that in the former past time, we were seeing that the science, it's a magic. It's something for witchcraft. But I understand when I'm coming to this workshop, I understand it's not like that. It is a wrong understanding. So the sciences is coming to help the ministry of God, because it's a gift from God.
When I think about even just God's creation, there's so much science about it. And my activities, even as a scientist, I always put God first. So I always have to think, you know, what are the benefits? How are we meant to, you know, utilize the creation that He created to the benefit of the communities? And we think about the charge that we were given through Adam. Take care of the environment. And for me, because I'm in the environmental space, then we have to bring in the faith. And I think that is what we are learning here in all our activities, the faith knowledge, the science knowledge, and interplaying, because the community is key.
This commission is important because it helps us to unravel ways in which faith and science can work together, ways in which science can help interpret some of those difficult issues around climate, for example, around health. We've just come out of a big pandemic, and if we didn't listen to the scientists, perhaps we would be in another worse situation. So for me, this commission is wonderful because it is centered in a faith context. It is centered in the lived realities of the people. It is centered in affirmation of life. How do human beings flourish by using God's creation? Because science is not out of the space. I think one can say that science is about, faith is about God, and maybe God is the greatest scientist. And if we follow that, then you'll use the positive aspects of science for human flourishing.
Our lived life expresses the scientific character of God, the diversity of creation, the beauty of it. It's all part of our lived life. Now, it is now up to the church to put this in the context. For instance, how much science do we read in the Old Testament? How much science do we read in the New Testament? Look at Jesus' parables and how he refers to the elements of creation. Read the Psalms of David and how he refers to the elements of creation. And so what is important is for our theological educators to make this clear in their theologizing in the African context, and particularly in our traditional knowledge. There's a lot of science that we don't consider to be science. I guess it's also because of the way science was introduced to us. Science has always been part of us, but during colonization and our type of education that we have, science was seen to be white. Traditional knowledge was seen to be black, and that dichotomy was created. But we are at a point, and through this workshop, which has been emphasized, there's a need to bring a convergence between traditional knowledge, scientific knowledge, and our faith together. And this is where the church is called to be at the forefront of it.
Having all these people on board is quite something that I would really be very happy about. Well, I'm very happy about it because I'm able to learn from the bishops, I'm able to learn from fellow scientist colleagues, I'm able to learn from, everybody put together and get their perspective of science and their perspective of faith. Even in my prior workstations where I have worked before, and having worked in an organization where we had everybody from the world working together, it was very important because it really opens up your mind, and then you're not just limited to one line of thought. You get to hear it from left, right, and center, and then you come to a convergence, and then you come to a point where you are able to put together everybody's opinion. You put together everybody's opinion, so then you can be able to know which way am I going? Am I on the right track? Am I not on the right track? And which way should I go?
There's everything great about the issue of science and faith, and especially in this country, where there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to matters of faith, but also misinformation around the area of sciences. So if you mix the two misinformations, you end up with a terrible concoction. And it is important and right for us, those who are given to theology. I am a systematic theologian myself, and together with my friends who are in the sciences, that we engage and produce something that is not just straight and great, but also something that the communities around here will desire and have in the context of formation of their ministers.
Theology itself is a science in which it helps you understand God himself, understand how God relates with his creation, and how he intends his creation to relate with the rest of creation. So my theology has been an eye-opener. And this has enabled me to sit down with the likes of scientists, share with them what God has to say concerning his world, because this world has an owner, and what he hopes that at the end of the day when he comes back for us, we will be able to give in terms of our feedback, and what we shall be giving back will be better than even what we found in this world.
My diocese, it's called the Diocese of Katanga. We have health centers in our dioceses, and this health center is working directly with the government. And during the COVID time, we started to talk to the community to see how the community, they understand COVID and how they can agree and accept to be vaccinated, and how they can protect themselves, how they can follow all measures that can help them to be protected against COVID. It was so difficult for the community to understand. They was thinking that if you have been vaccinated, you will not give birth, or you will die, or they will reduce your age. And the church starts to mobilize people, to sensitize people, to show them that's the wrong messages. COVID, the vaccination against COVID, it's coming to protect the human being, it's come to protect us as a Christian.
Many times as I go out to work with our social programs who try to address the food security question, I would always try to encourage them to refer to the scripture. And we've come up with a program which we call it Farmers Field Schools. And in it, much as we would address much of the new technologies on farming, would also take time to do what we call foundational Bible study, because God himself, as we can see from the scripture, we can rightly say he is a great farmer, because he first created Adam and Eve, put them in the farm, and therefore, even as we think about farming, it is a God's idea, and it's something that we can share.
Science is a tool which the mind uses, but we also have hearts, we also have the whole of our lives to live in this world. And so faith gives us that bigger picture. It gives us, faith gives us, shows us our place in creation, our place under God. Faith gives us Christ as our guide and the one who leads us. And so when faith and science come together, science is put in its place. Science is put into a bigger picture, the one that faith gives us. So faith then shows us that we mustn't misuse science. We must use it as a tool for the benefit of all people, without exploiting people, without oppressing them, without misusing them. So faith, I think, gives us that bigger frame, that framework within which science can be of benefit to all of us.
I pray that as faith leaders, I'll be able to gather those who have a science background, so that we can have some regular sessions together over a cup of tea, informal or formal, just discuss about areas in scriptures where science is involved. So they hear the perspective of the scientist, they also hear the perspective of theologians, and then cascade this to the Christians so that we're able to appreciate and know that science actually leads us to God, instead of seeing science as a different God from the God that we worship.
What we have understood from our conversations with our colleagues here in Kenya is that we have to bring these things together, that we have to appreciate the knowledge systems of faith, of science, but also of community and traditional knowledge, because these are complementary to each other, they serve each other and they serve the church if we bring them together and allow them to speak together.
I hope that everybody's voice will be brought on board, because we are interdependent. We need each other. And I think scientists can empower the church in terms of the mission work. The church leaders really need to mentor, to recognize the scientists and to uplift their call, because in this time and age, they do a lot, you know, to respond to the issue. So I think it's a very good opportunity that all of us bring our views on board and our callings on board.
You are yourself an embodiment of science and faith. That's first thing. That it is not this disconnect. As a person, you are. And because you are, therefore you can engage in all ways that you feel capable of. You can engage by asking questions. You can engage by producing knowledge yourself. You can engage by sharing. So I would want to demystify the disconnect that there is the faith there and there is a science there. I would say as a person, you embody. And it's that embodiment that we need to bring out. So if you are a theologian, there's something you bring. If you are a medical doctor, there is something you bring. You are an environmentalist, there's something you bring. And when that is put together, it means that we are going to build a wonderful community where human beings flourish.
So I would encourage everybody or anybody else who is out there who hasn't even, probably there are people who might have not understood what science is when it comes to matters faith. I would really encourage other Anglicans who are out there to be able to join into this and be able to really learn and get to know how faith and science would really move hand in hand even as we worship God as Anglicans.
There's an opportunity for scientists to come in and offer a sort of think tank or a reference group where bishops, theologians, lay people can come and get the correct information to disseminate. But at the same time, we can also learn from our colleagues from clergy so that faith and science are not independent, but they are complementary.
I hope that this project will encourage people, and I hope that we find the right model, and we can do that by getting our communities who are going to lead this to design it, to actually take us forward. My encouragement to them is to engage, to listen to each other, to realise that each group has specific expertise, and that if we pull our expertise and we don't separate ourselves, then it's amazing what might come out of that. And I hope that with God's blessing, those conversations will turn into flourishing actions.